written by James Worchester. I'm a tech reviewer living in Chicago. Earlier this month, I received a review copy of Apple's new iOS 14 on my phone. One of the new features that came on the iOS 14 is called sound recognition. When activated, the software activates the user's microphone to identify sounds that would be useful for a person who's deaf or wearing headphones. The phone can identify a dozen or so different sounds, including sirens, doorbells, and the sound of water running, amongst others. You can see my favorite tech reviewer, MKBHD, briefly mention the feature in his review here. I wanted to see how well the feature worked, so I turned it on and went about my day. After I rode my bike into the office where I work, I checked my phone and saw a few notifications from the app that looked like this. Car horn. 15 minutes ago. A sound has been recognized that may be a car horn. Dog barking. 16 minutes ago. A sound has been recognized that may be a dog barking. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd heard both the car and the dog on my bike ride to work. The next two notifications threw me off, though. Shouting. 18 minutes ago. A sound has been recognized that may be a person shouting. Shouting. 18 minutes ago. A sound has been recognized that may be a person shouting. It's not like it would have been overly strange if I'd heard shouting. I live in Chicago after all, but I hadn't. I'd been actively listening throughout the whole ride, and I definitely hadn't heard anything that could be called shouting. At the end of the day, I turned the sound settings back and took the same path home. This time when I got home, I saw a few similar notifications. A siren from an ambulance, a few car horns, and 3 more notifications of shouting. I was baffled. I'd been specifically listening for something that might be misidentified as shouting, but I'd heard nothing. So I decided to pull on my detective hat. I knew from my phone's display that the shouting had been recorded at 5:23 p.m. I also knew that Google Maps records its users' locations at all times. All I had to do was go check exactly where I'd been when the sound had been recorded. I opened my laptop, flipped over to my timeline on Google Maps, and scrolled to the time that the shouting had apparently been recorded on my phone. There. I'd been biking along a 50-foot section of road during the 2 minutes that my phone had recorded the shouting. I zoomed in, looking for an elementary school, a playground, or anything that could explain what I'd recorded. When I saw what I'd passed, I sat back, shaking my head. The only thing on the other side of that section of sidewalk was an old cemetery. No way, I said to myself. There's gotta be. No way. I trailed off, staring down at my phone. I switched apps and ordered some takeout, still thinking hard. It was way too strange a coincidence for me to just dismiss, though. Were there mourners inside the cemetery? Even if there were, why would they be shouting? And why hadn't I heard them? I was still thinking through possibilities when my doorbell rang with my food. My phone buzzed. I looked down and read, "Doorbell. Just now. A sound has been recognized that may be a doorbell." I turned off the feature before getting to my feet and grabbing my food. I decided I had to go back to the cemetery and see if there was something there that my phone could mistake for shouts. By the time I biked back out there, it was already dark. The cemetery was old by most standards, with a winding concrete path that split it in two, connecting the 2 city streets on either side. I rode into the middle of the cemetery, hopped off my bike, and took a few steps into the grass. The cemetery was old and poor. The city still probably paid someone to cut the grass, but they hadn't come out in more than a month. I was confused at how quiet the night was. If you've ever been in a big city like Chicago or New York, you know that it's almost never silent. You'll always be hearing the sound of a car horn off in the distance, or someone playing their music as if the rest of us want to hear it. Tonight was different, though. Standing in that cemetery, it was as if a hush had fallen over this corner of the city. Even the leaves around me were still. I hovered my finger over the app, suddenly unsure if I should turn it on. Curiosity overcame my hesitation, and I activated the feature. My phone immediately began to buzz. Shouting, "Just now, a sound has been recognized that may be a person shouting. Shouting, just now, a sound has been recognized that may be a person shouting." I was at a complete loss. There was nothing for my phone to misinterpret. I walked up to a nearby tombstone and turned on my phone's light to read the names. An infant son had been buried with its mother and father sometime in the early 1500s. My phone continued to buzz. I looked down at the new notifications. Baby crying. Just now, a sound has been recognized that may be a baby crying. Shouting, just now, a sound has been recognized that may be a person shouting. Baby crying. Just now, a sound has been recognized that may be a baby crying. I crouched down in front of the grave, steadying myself against it to try and get a picture of the names. That's when I felt a small, pudgy hand wrap around the pinky finger of my left hand. It was warm and wet, like the hand of an infant. I fell onto my back, staring at the tombstone. I skittered back along the tall grass of the cemetery and saw I was still utterly, completely alone. At least, it seemed that way. My phone continued to buzz. I ran, picked up my bike, and rode out of there as fast as I could.